Do you think the LLMs we have access to are biased when it comes to like a worldview, conservative, liberal, pro America, anti America, like the hot topics? Are these LLM biased, in your opinion?
That is a great question. Okay, so there's a few factors. So you have post-training also. So there's one thing where you've got the source data. So let's just use Wikipedia. We'll keep it simple. You gobble up Wikipedia, right? Then in the post-training phase, there is a step where you have humans saying, what conclusions is this thing allowed to arrive at with access to this training data? Meaning, inside of Wikipedia, you have like the rise of the Third Reich is in there, right? And so like in the post training of that, even though you have a factual record of the rise of the Third Reich in Germany, in post training, you might have somebody say, do not arrive at the conclusion that this was a great thing for the world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the thing that occurs in post training. So in a way, you're like, is that bias that's being introduced into the model in that post training? Is to say you are not allowed to arrive at the conclusion that the Third Reich was great for the world, right? That is technically bias being introduced into the model.
Yeah.
And so this is where, like, this is the thing that I am like probably most passionate about people understanding is that and I think this is probably, I mean, I know, like, man, I know, like, Elon is like nuclear right now, but I do think that he has the right idea in mind with how he's approaching Grok. Uh, if people look to an LLM for bias or facts, I think they're missing the point of the technology. Um, I think people would be better served to not outsource their knowledge to these things, but to rather outsourcing the processing of that knowledge. Outsource, like, you as the human create the ideas, create the variables that you want to test, create the ways that you want to test those variables, and then I think that you should have access to a wide open model to process those ideas. You know what I mean? So, like, if I wanted to take the position that the rise of the Third Reich, while horrendous things occurred, it was a net benefit to the global population. And let's say I wanted to explore that idea and I went to retrieve data and hypotheses and all of these things. And I brought this to an LLM that was fully neutral and just processing my concepts and chain of thought. I think that I arrive at much better output and I'm much better for the experience of doing that. I think that people are misguided when they outsource bias or knowledge or factual acquisition to an LLM, that they would have much more powerful and richer experience if they outsource the processing, the manual work of like of logic, not I mean not logic, but like logic
Critical thinking.
processing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like have a hypothesis, know how you want to challenge that hypothesis. What do you want to test it against? And then go to the LLM and ask it to help you with the processing of that.
Yeah.
Approaching it like a computer is the absolute right way to approach these things.